What up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys hear the sound of my voice really well. Give me 1 second. I'm just getting all situated here. We're having some fun today. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm just, all right, it's coming in good here on the phone feed, which is important, so I can see your guys' messages as we go on here. Let me find the link on YouTube really quick. We're doing a simulcast today, in case you guys were wondering. Simulcast of the Good Brothers Q&A session. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, got it up on YouTube as well. I'm going to post this up on Twitter. Have some fun today. Okay. We're live, pal. This is a great song, by the way. Bam. All right. Don't mind me, guys. I'm just pulling up questions here. I'll get to you guys in just a second. All right, I got it right here. Sweet. All right, folks. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. I'm ready to rock and roll with this segment here. What we're going to do going forward is record the first half of the Hoots podcast, aka the Good Brothers Q&A session. We're going to do it live, both on Facebook and YouTube, every Thursday before I get into the rest of the podcast, which you can subscribe to right now, by the way, at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get podcasts from. This is episode 244. You guys can get a little behind the fourth wall of the Hoots podcast here as I do this. We're not recording right now, recording on Facebook, but we're not recording the pod yet. So this is here just to get things settled in, get you guys into the chat box, especially here on Facebook or YouTube. If you have a question, you can be part of this segment. All you have to do is ask me a question. It could be about wrestling. It could be about sports. It could be about music. It could be about mental health. It could be about relationships. The goal of this segment is to pay homage to each and every single one of you good brothers and good sisters who take the time to check out this podcast and support my work. It really means a lot to me. So I do appreciate the support, whether you guys listen to this for 3 minutes or you listen to the full show. So thanks for the support, everybody. Like I said, ask me anything you want. You ask something you want to know about me too, you know. All I ask is to be respectful and we can have fun with it. I'm live in the Good Brothers studio. This is my baby. Work in progress. I think the studio will be complete once they have like one of those lighting things where you get to switch different colors inside the room. I think it'd be really dope, especially with this brick in the background. But this setup is awesome, man. I'm really enjoying the chair, the new chair I got here for the podcast now. Life's good. So I'm ready to get going here and record this podcast for you guys today. And like I said, all I ask for you guys to do, if you watch this video, please hit the like button and share it to your friends. You can start a watch party if you want. I've Always open to any suggestions for the podcast, positively or negatively. And for those who do listen to the podcast, please leave us a review. I want to know what you guys think about the podcast as a whole. So hit your boy up, man. That's all I ask. All right. I guess we should get started, right? Good Brothers Q&A session. We got a lot of questions to go through. I think got like 30 or 35 questions to answer. You guys really did a great job sending questions this week, so let's not waste as much time, right? Let's get into it. All right, here we go. We'll find the fourth wall here. Down here on GarageBand, let's take a quick swig of water real quick. Show ritual, here we go. Going live, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 244 of the Hoops Podcast. It's Thursday, February 11th, 2021. It's yours truly, the nefarious brother Adam. You can call me Josh if you like. You can follow me at Twitter at the Hoops Podcast. I'm also on Instagram at Joshie Lopez94. That's Joshie Lopez94 on Instagram, and also at Josh Lopez Music. I'm recording this live in the Good Brothers studio in Chicago, Illinois. This is a live/pro wrestling podcast, hopefully to make this a positive experience for you guys, like a positive mental escape for all the negative Nelly wrestling podcasts that are out there, kind of break up the minutia. And we're here to have fun. I'm also here to give out advice and talk about some real topics. And that's what we're going to do here. That's what we do here on the Hoops Podcast. We got a lot of wrestling to break down. I just covered the Night 2 event of the New Beginning in Hiroshima just about a half an hour ago. So you'll get my thoughts on that later on in the podcast. Also, we got 2 pay-per-views to make predictions for. Yes, this weekend. We got NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day, which will be taking place on Sunday, while you guys are in Valentine's Day lore and trying to figure out if you're stuck in a flaky situation. Yours truly will be covering NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. It should be a good night. And then also we got Impact Wrestling. They got a pay-per-view coming up on Saturday called No Surrender, a throwback from their TNA days. Glad that they brought that back event. They brought that event back, and No Surrender will be taking place in Nashville on Impact Plus. It's a specialty event, so a lot of wrestling to talk about. And of course, we're on the road to Elimination Chamber a week from this Sunday as well for the WWE. We're on the road to WrestleMania. Lots of roads. And of course, AEW. We get into our popular segment, What the Hell is Wrong with AEW, later on. And of course, and finally, the last thing, the Thoughts of Dericho with the one and only Bret Carter. Make sure you listen to that towards the end of the podcast. I wanted to mention really quick, you could subscribe to the podcast right now. It comes to you free of charge every single Thursday. We don't charge you a single cent to watch or listen to this podcast. And we do appreciate the support. Make sure you can subscribe to our YouTube channel since we're simulcasting this segment. And you get all the episodes of the Hoops Podcast and all my old radio interviews I used to do on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. And it's crazy, man. In March, we'll be celebrating 8 years as a broadcaster. And it's been a fun ride. It's been a fun journey and a fun experience. So, yeah, let's have some fun, guys. Like, hit me up here in the chat box. Hit me up with any questions you guys want to ask me, and we'll get going here. I do want to mention one other thing, 2 things actually. Please, if you could, leave us a 4 or 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts from. Leave us a review. I want to know what you guys think about the show, positively or negatively. That helps expand and reach the show and get a better gauge on what you guys feel about the podcast. And then finally, bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. All right, pal. Enough of the plugs. Let's get into business here. We're going to start things off with the Good Brothers Q&A session. What it is my time to interact with you guys. You guys send me questions at the Hoots Podcast or the Hoots Podcast at gmail.com. and I answer your questions. And it could be on a bevy of different topics. It doesn't have to be just pro wrestling. And I'm excited to answer your questions and get going on with the rest of the podcast. So let's have some fun, shall we? All right. We're going to start off with a lady's question. A good friend of mine. Her name's Nicole. You can follow her at Twitter at TheTruthND. Shout out to Nicole. She asks, curious what you thought about the whole Jay White situation. Do you think he was on his way out before people started talking shit? I don't think that he was on his way out, Nicole. And I think that's the interesting lore about the Switchblade, where, yeah, as a character, he complains a lot. And he does resemble a lot of Shia LaBeouf characteristics in a lot of ways. But I think that's also intriguing about Jay White. And he's a very good manipulator and playing mind games, and he keeps you on the edge of your seats. And Jay White did a good job of playing everybody. And would I have been shocked if he showed up at the Royal Rumble? No. Do I think Jay White will be in New Japan long term? I think that's for him to decide. I think with his situation is very fluid, and what does he want? If he's already been an IWGP Heavyweight Champion, so there's nothing that he hasn't accomplished in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, maybe he hasn't won a Wrestle Kingdom main event yet, but I think when you look at Jay White, he's done what he's needed to do in New Japan, in my opinion. And if you wanted to take that chance to go to a different promotion or something like that, I think that would work out for him. So I'm a big fan of Jay White. As you guys can tell, I'm a big New Japan Pro Wrestling fan. So I really enjoy Jay White, and I'm excited for his future. And people are always going to talk shit about performance that they don't know from other companies. I remember somebody last year telling me, you should be cautious. No wrestling company pays your bills. Well, actually, the entire wrestling business pays my bills, actually. Not to steal a line from Finn Balor, he says he doesn't watch this business. This business watches me. Well, this business pays me. I don't pay wrestling companies to cover their work, cover their programming. That's part of being a student of the game, I guess. But I love Jay White, and he has a bright future ahead of him. So I'm not surprised people talk shit. People talk shit by the moment they open their eyes the next day. People are just triggered every time they breathe these days. It's weird. All right. Next batch of questions will be coming from my good buddy Ed at King Edward 15. He says, what can we do to get rid of the Meltzers and Alvarezes of the wrestling journalism bubble and get fresh guys in? Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head right there. It's a bubble, and the voices of wrestling are just outdated. They bring nothing new to the table when it comes to their perspective on pro wrestling, and I feel really sad for the future generations of wrestling fans, because we're growing up in the era of entitlement, being morose on air, just being condescending, and just basically leading wrestling fans astray and being run amok. Honestly, we're all being hoodwinked. We're being hoodwinked by the marquee guys in the wrestling media. Now, here's the thing with me. I stay in my lane. I'm not a reporter. I'm not an analyst. I'm not an expert. I make wrestling transcripts, and I'm a professional broadcaster. That's what I am. That's what I do. These two guys pretend that there's something that they're not. I saw the tweet that Dave Meltzer put out a couple weeks ago where he's like, oh, you look at the last bookers of the year for the Wrestling Observer, they all took notes from me. Go fuck yourself. Honestly, I'm sorry for the language out of the way, but seriously, go fuck yourself, Dave Meltzer. And same thing goes to you, Brian Alvarez, a guy who tries to limit and decrease the seriousness of leukemia. Seriously? Come on. Who are you fooling? I can't stand these two dweebs, and they make what I do for a living as a joke. They do. Because their reporting is falsely based. They don't give out what their sources are. calling Dave Meltzer an insider or an analyst is a spit in the face of people like Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Tim Kirshen, Adam Wojnarowski from the NBA. People who are actual journalists and do real reporting, not this BS speculation nonsense. You're spitting in their face. So I have no respect for those guys. Oh, what's up, Sarah? How you doing, girl? Nice to see you here in the chat box. The thing is, as a fan base, we need to figure out what we want in our coverage. Because I feel like my field of wrestling media does a disservice for future wrestling fans. You go to any website, you listen to any wrestling podcast, and it'll make you feel bad about being a wrestling fan because people are so stuck in their bubble about, oh, this is how booking should be this way, booking should be that way. Guys, we're watching a wrestling television show. You're not in the wrestling business. You're not responsible for whether these shows are good or not. And you know what? I can't stand just the culture of wrestling media today. Something has to change. These two guys always go soapboxes about the WWE relying on older talent, but the voices of wrestling in 2021 are 45 years old and 61. Think about that. It's just embarrassing. It really is. You don't grocery shopping? That's nice. I went grocery shopping last week. Grocery shopping is the first stage of knowing that you're being an adult and just understanding that you got to balance your money and shit because groceries ain't cheap, pal. Do ratings really matter? Does it change how you view a show? Do I think ratings matter? I think they matter to the networks that employed these wrestling promotions, but for me as a wrestling fan, no, I don't care about ratings. I care about the product that you put on TV, and that's the difference on how I view a show as opposed to the common person that hosts a wrestling podcast or runs a website. For me, I really don't care who's getting pushed or being buried. I really don't care about the behind the scenes stuff because when I break down these shows and I make the transcripts, I can really debunk any common narratives that you see on wrestling Twitter when it comes to whining about booking, who's being 50-50 booked, who's not. Like, I can really sit through that shit because honestly, for me, you gotta, here's the important thing about life, and I want you guys to understand this. When it comes to life, no matter what you do, whether you're a broadcaster, whether you're a musician, no matter what you do, you need to think before you speak. You need to apply context before you go on a soapbox about something. I will stress that to the cows go home, to young people that want to be a broadcaster or a podcaster or people who want to work in the media in general. You have to apply context to what you have to say. I speak for myself. You should never allow somebody to speak for you or tell you how you should view a wrestling show. I think that's ridiculous. We can all have our agreements and disagreements on whether wrestling should be TV-14 or PG. For me, I watch it because I love this stuff since I was 4 years old, and I try to learn something new with every show that goes on air each week. You know, I cover 14 wrestling shows a week. If anybody can tell the difference in presentations of wrestling promotions, it's me. I see Lucha, I see Strong Style, I see American Style Wrestling, I see Spots Fest, I see mud shows, I see any style of wrestling known to man. And for me to still enjoy it, even though this is my career and what I do for a living now, I view it in trying to see if they do something different. Like, I don't need an answer to a storyline on one episode of Raw or Dynamite or SmackDown or New Japan. I try to watch these shows for what they are and make sure that the transcripts read well to you guys as well. So for me, like, do ratings matter? No, they don't matter in the wrestling bubble, the wrestling echo chamber, because people are doing it in false ways. You guys base your thoughts on ratings on stuff you read from Wrestling Inc. Like, think about that. You guys are going off of ratings based out of rounding errors. I tell anybody who really thinks they're an expert on television and how the media landscape works, go to a media school and actually do some research. Like, you'll find out that Nielsen is an outdated metric system in media and entertainment these days. But you guys want to rely on that so much on Wrestling Inc. It's nonsense. Brownie, what's up, buddy? How you doing, my man? Thanks for checking out the video. If you have any questions for me, just hit me up in the chat box, right, bud? Next question. Who will be the starting QB for the Bears this season? I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. There's a lot of options. I want the best of the Bears. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is the worst quarterback in the NFL as people make him out to be. That's just my opinion on the situation. But for me, I liked the roster of the Bears. I don't like their head coach. It doesn't matter who you bring in as the starting quarterback when Matt Nagy's so stubborn in his ways and tied down and bogged down in analytics. You're not going to go anywhere. So what's the point? Oh, we're going to trade 4 draft picks for Deshaun Watson. We're going to trade 3 draft picks and a player for Carson Wentz. It's not going to make a difference. Oh, man, that's a good line right there, Browning. And then that's the Bears QB situation. And then, okay, we go from Kyle Orton to Jay Cutler, Rex Grossman, Chad Henne, Caleb Haney, Jason Campbell, Mike Glennon, Mitch Trubisky, Mark Sanchez, Tyler Bray, Chase Daniels, Nick Foles. And then. I feel like the Bears movie is set in the movie Dude, Where's My Car? Because it's going nowhere. I haven't seen a good quarterback in my whole life. I'm going to be 27 in May, and I haven't seen a good quarterback yet. All right. Next questions. We're going to scroll up in the inbox portion here on Twitter, and we're going to hit up the good brother Chris Saletta at XTeenZaletta24X on Twitter. Thanks for saying questions. Always good, brother. Who's impressed you so far this NBA season? I'll be honest with you guys. I've been out of the loop with the NBA because I've been so busy with moving and handling the transcript schedule. I just haven't been able to really watch the NBA. I see some things from afar. Like I saw the stuff about Mark Cuban and the national anthem. I'm not going to get into that. But as far as like from what I have seen from the Bulls, I have been impressed by Patrick Williams. I'm not surprised by Zach LaVine. I'm really happy for him because a lot of people in the Chicago sports radio market talk shit about him and try to decrease his value as a player. But Zach LaVine's a really good basketball player, so I really enjoy his work. So Bulls, hopefully they can find a way to sneak into the playoffs this year. Looks like Steph Curry's getting back into form. The Lakers are still the Lakers. I'm trying my best to see what I can pop off the top of my head, but I'll be honest, I have not been watching it as much as I should. Maybe I could, maybe in the weekends now that the football season's over, but I've just been really busy. Will you be tuning into Bloodsport Saturday? No, I will not. Nothing against Josh Barnett. It's just not my style of stuff I want to watch, to be honest with you. Browning asks, am I going to watch Vengeance on Sunday? Yes, Browning. I'll be covering that event on Sunday. This should be a fun show to check out. Have you checked out Kurt Angle's podcast? No, not yet, but I want to. I really been trying to scale down on the wrestling podcast that I have been listening to, Chris, and I do want to check out Kurt Angle's podcast. He has an interesting perspective, and I'm just curious to see how Kurt Angle would be on air in a podcast. You know, I'm sure you can tell good stories. You know, I admire Conrad Thompson's hustle and what he does to hustle out money and what he does with all these different shows. And he has adfreeshows.com. Conrad Thompson, former guest of the PWE show, by the way, very talented guy and very good entrepreneur. So shout out to Conrad. The guy's a beast. how do you feel about your Bulls backcourt of Levine and Kobe White? I like them. Honestly, the thing with the Bulls right now is they have to learn how to win, and they've been so bogged down by Jim Boylan and Fred Hoiberg over the last 4 or 5 seasons. So what you're seeing is they're having a lot of competitive games, but the Bulls, and sometimes they find a way to finish games, and sometimes they lose in the last minute. And I like the roster, how it's formulating, but for me, I like what I've seen from Kobe White. I saw yesterday that they tied the NBA record for most threes in a game as a tandem, tying Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. So I like what I'm seeing so far from the Bulls backcourt. By the way, folks, stop putting Zach LaVine in trade rumors. There's no reason why that dude should be traded. Come on. Better Undertaker theme, American Badass or Rollin'? Oh, man, that's a good question. I knew you were going to hit me with this one because I'm an Undertaker guy. I think for me, I'll probably say I got to go with Rollin'. I think that's my favorite American Badass theme song for The Undertaker's Rollin'. That's the one that stands out the most to me. Should Keith Lee be the one to take the U.S. title off of Lashley? No, I think Damian Priest should be the one to take the U.S. title off of Lashley. Do you think we'll get Priest and Brock at some point? I don't think so, but I'm very excited for the future for Damian Priest. I think he's going to do a lot of good stuff in WWE, and his talent will supersede anything that's thrown in his way. You know, he's doing this thing right now with Bad Bunny, and you're introducing Damian Priest to a new audience and casual viewers, and the guy has all the charisma in the world to lead him to any path he wants. Do I think it's something where I see Damian Priest versus Brock Lesnar at a SummerSlam or Mania soon? No, I do not. With Taya Valkyrie's contract with Impact coming up, is she NXT/WWE bound? Taya is a very underrated female wrestler, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of hers. She has a great waterfall, but she's a really good wrestler. I first was introduced to Taya in Lucha Underground, and she's very good at what she does. So I would love to see her in WWE if that's the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if she went to AEW because they could use some more women in their division. So what do you think of Cody's forming of the Nightmare Family team? Indifferent. Kind of like everything that pumps out of Jacksonville, I'm just indifferent to. Look, I'll give credit where credit's due. Out of the 4 key elite guys, I think Cody Rhodes is my favorite out of the 4. I can't stand Olivier, and the Buck Hogan and Balding Buck is the most overrated tag team I've seen in my life. But Cody does have good matches. But there's also times where he has this Triple H complex where he has to make everything about himself, and I'll mention that later on in the podcast. But for me, you can have a faction with your brother and QC Marshall, but is it really going to mean anything? There's 9 factions in AEW. So what's this? How's this one going to stand out? Do you think Cody will ever get his title shot back? I mean, when you're the Jeff Jarrett of the modern era, I guess you could find a way to pencil yourself in, pal. You always know about the most dangerous weapon in wrestling is the either the eraser or the pen too. You never know. Which current tag team would you like to see Edge and Christian face if they were to come together? One tag team and one tag team only, the Grizzled Young Veterans. You're welcome for that. I love the Grizzled Young Veterans. Shout out to Chris for those questions, by the way. I really do appreciate those really good questions, brother. Next batch of questions we're going to get to is from the good brother Sam Piopo at Second City Sam. He asked the question here, who do I prefer, Dean Ambrose or Jon Moxley? I'm going to switch my answer to this, Sam. I'm going with New Japan Jon Moxley because I'm not a fan of Jon Moxley in AEW. So give me New Japan Jon Moxley over Dean Ambrose and AEW Jon Moxley. I think that'll work. Favorite Kurt Angle match? That's an easy one. Definitely be the one with Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 21. It's one of the best technical wrestling matches I've ever seen in my life. The great thing about WrestleMania over the years, I would scoff at Meltzer where he's like, oh, they call it WrestleMania, but they never have 5-star wrestling matches. Yeah, because your eyes are just so majestic when it comes to what's good in pro wrestling, right? Kurt Angle against Shawn Michaels is one of the best non-marquee singles matches in WrestleMania history, and it's not even close. Do you think Corbin's King gimmick has run its course? It does if we're not going to have another King of the Ring tournament. I'll say that. I do like his work. I do like what he does as a heel. I think he's underappreciated and undervalued by today's wrestling fans because today's wrestling fans are today's wrestling fans. But King Corbin is very good in my opinion. The gimmick will probably run its course if we're not going to have another King of the Ring tournament. So that's something we need to look out for in the summer. With AEW's ratings at their peak, how long until the company is dead? Well, that's a good question because sooner or later, the shit's going to hit the fan. Look, you have friends that are EVPs and working in the boardroom and are part of the creative team. Something is going to happen. Something is going to happen. Honestly, when you get into business with some people, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I just be very cautious because I know there's a lot of hand gliding in AEW, but at the same time, you got a Mark Booker as the promoter who's basically letting Dave Meltzer and Brad Alvarez format his show. Let's just be honest. And then you got EVP guys, they're all egomaniacs. Something is going to happen sooner or later. So I'm not going to count and say, oh, I'm going to guarantee that AEW is going to die in a couple of years. That probably won't be the case, but something will happen sooner or later. Trust me. Okay, which one of the three would you pick? Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota, or Derek Carr? Man. Shout out to good brother Adam Daly as well. I'm going to go with Derek Carr. That would be my pick. It's really not a lot of fun to choose from, but this is the predicament we're in. I'm going to go with Derek Carr in that one. I don't want to buy into the fact that Carson Wentz is completely useless and can't do anything anymore, but I value mental health, and I value players' mental health especially. And in this market, it's just an accident waiting to happen if Carson Wentz comes here. I'm just going to say that. Thanks for checking it out, Brian. I appreciate you, buddy. I hope you had a good day. I'll go with Derek Carr because he has really nothing to lose, in my opinion, when it comes to this. So for me, I would say that that Derek Carr would be the one that the Bears eventually get. It'll be very interesting to see the reaction if they do end up trading for Wentz, but I think Derek Carr will be the guy. Let's take a quick swig of water real quick. Here we go. Favorite Cubs and Sox player of all time? Well, let's see. My favorite Cub player of all time is tied. It's John Lester and Sammy Sosa. I'm sure I'm going to get some heat for that, but I don't care. Sammy Sosa was at his peak when I was like a really young kid at the time when I first started watching baseball. And John Lester, I think he's a guy that really brought the Cubs to the next level of credibility and what that organization was. So John Lester and Sammy Sosa were probably my favorite Cub players of all time. My favorite Sox player of all time is Frank Thomas, and I think Paul Konerko is not that far behind him as well. So Frank Thomas, definitely the Big Hurt, is my favorite Sox player of all time, and my favorite baseball player of all time, outside of Alex Rodriguez. So, good question, Sam. Appreciate you, brother. All right. Another question we got here on the list was from a good brother, Jason Howe at Jedi Fett on Twitter. Go support that good brother on Twitter as well. He asks, what theme song would I pick if I were to walk into the room? Like any room. Like what song would I pick to, I don't know, maybe Bask in My Glory or something like that? I guess that's where he's going with the question. But I think for me, I would say there's a lot to choose from. I mean, I could go old school Undertaker if I wanted to. I'll give you two. I'll go with either Killer Kross's theme song or this Fire Burns CM Punk's original WWE theme song. So those are the two I pick. Killer Kross or CM Punk. That's a good question, though. Like, what song would you walk into a building with? Like, what would be your entrance theme? I'm always curious about that for other people. Like, what would be your wrestling entrance theme? Let's go back to the mailbox on Twitter real quick. We're going to take in some questions from the good brother Tony S., referee Tony S., one of my favorite referees in the business. Wrestling promotions, I don't know why you're not signing this dude. You guys are making your referee crews look bad when you not do that. Check out Tony's podcast, by the way, the TBD Wrestling Podcast with my other good brother Mitchell McNeil. They have a great podcast. Go check out their work. He asked, if there was any element for New Japan that you could bring to American professional wrestling, what would it be and why? Kevin Kelly. The English commentary in New Japan Pro Wrestling is top-notch. It makes my job easier as a transcriber. I really enjoy Kevin's work. He does an amazing job. And I think Kevin Kelly is just really good at his job. So that'd be the first thing. As far as like concepts and stuff like that, I would like to see the WWE try to do like a G1 style tournament. I think it'd be a good added content for the network. Something like that where you can have a certain show just dedicated to like G1 style matches, whatever you want to call it in the WWE system, like round robin tournaments. I think it would be really cool if they did like a G1 style tournament in WWE. So that'd probably be the main thing I would take for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And it's okay to allow wrestlers to do like more forearm exchanges. I'll say that. Okay, what was the first match that you vividly remember seeing when you first became a fan? Well, I think the first one that I do remember was the Undertaker Mankind Hell in the Cell match. You guys got to understand, I started watching wrestling in 1998, so I think that's the first one I remember in my head watching as a kid. I remember my dad telling me that I watched WrestleMania 14 with him when I was younger. He was actually, my dad introduced me to professional wrestling. I never brought that up before. You got to thank my old man for introducing me to this wacky world of wrestling. So, I think like the Mankind Undertaker one is ones that stand out. I remember Undertaker against Kane with Austin as a guest referee, and then Austin got fired, something like that, by Vince. It was in Chicago. I do remember that. So that late, like mid-1998 part of the year for WWE as they were getting into the Attitude Era. So that would be my answer for that question. Shout out to you, Goodbird. Thanks for those questions, man. All right. The last batch of questions we're going to get into today comes from a man that has many talents. A man that's a good brother of all good brothers. A man that supported the Pipe Bomb with McCool Company, that supported the TV Wrestling Podcast, and a good brother of the Hoots Podcast. Who am I talking about? We're talking about Psycho Nagiri, Nate the Great. hitting us up here from Minnesota. You like that? You like that? Would you be into it if a AEW superstar were to win an Impact Championship or vice versa? No. Hell no. Absolutely not. No shot. I'm not knocking your question, Nate, but just the concept that AEW and Impact are working together is doing them both a disservice. Like, you have to be that desperate to leech onto New Japan and Impact and garner more buzz because you can't build an identity for your own show. Think about that. Next question. Who's someone you'd like to see go to Impact in the future? Well, I gotta look at the landscape and see like who's out there and who could possibly be released down the road. I mean, if things don't work out with WWE and Aleister Black, I think Aleister Black would do good in Impact. He could join Selena down there as well. So I like to see Leo Rush in Impact. I think that'd be pretty cool. I like to see Brian Cage and LAX go back to Impact because that's where they were the best. So those are the ones that come off the top of my head. I don't see Moxley going there. I don't see Jericho going there. Maybe Jericho will go there. But those are the ones that stand out to me. Will Leo Rush be the flag bearer of the junior division for years to come, or do you think he still has a ways to go? I don't think he'll be the flag bearer, but I will say that Leo Rush could be like one of the top 4 guys in the junior division when it comes to New Japan, especially if he does more events there. And I'm pretty sure he will once this pandemic is over and things start to get back to normal. I don't think he'll be the flag bearer. It's still the Hiromu Takahashi show until he stops wrestling. So, but Leo Rush could make a good case for it, though. He's very talented, and shout out to him. He won the AAA Cruiserweight Championship last night on MLW Fusion. How do you think the NWA can reach a bigger audience? Well, I thought they were doing a good job at NWA Power, but honestly, they've been probably the biggest wrestling promotion that's been affected by this pandemic. We had like a little short series of Shockwave shows that I was covering about a couple months ago, and then they went on a hiatus again. So it's very unfortunate. And a lot of the top stars from NWA have left on to AEW, and it's a bummer. I'm still a big fan of Nick Aldis, the real world champion, and I do mean that, the real world champion, holding the 10 pounds of gold, or as he likes to call it, Sweet Charlotte. And I like Joe Galley. I like the whole crew. I love NW Power. Aaron Stevens cracks me up. I like the commentary with Joe Galley and Wade Barrett before he went to NXT. And shout out to Dave Marquez as well. I miss the NWA. I was just talking about this with my uncle the other day at the shop. Like, the great thing about the NWA is that they were doing their own thing. That's an alternative, not this bullshit that we see on TNT every week. Next question. Oh, we got a good one here. 5 least favorite foods. Oh, man. For me, as some people will watch this video, they won't be surprised with some of my answers, but I'd probably say number 1 on that list is tacos. I'm going to get a lot of heat for saying this, but tacos takes like pure dog shit, just like regular plain tacos. Like, I can't do it. No shot. Meatloaf on the list. Yep, that hits number 2. You'd think I would pick like a bunch of like greens and stuff or whatever, but no, I'm just very picky with the vegetables that I do eat. But number 3 would be what the fuck is that called? Brussels sprouts. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Brussels sprouts either. That tastes like fresh doo-doo butter. Scallops. 4, no, I don't like scallops. And 5, one of Matt Hardy's favorites, green beans. No green beans. So we got 5 on the list. We got tacos, meatloaf. I mentioned Brussels sprouts, scallops, and green beans. Those are the least 5 favorite foods for yours truly. You throw that in my face, I won't throw in the garbage, but I will not eat it. What is the first title Damian Priest wins on the main roster? I'll say the United States Championship. I think that's probably par for the course for him. I think that Damian Priest will find a way to win on the main roster. United States title, especially he's on the Raw brand. So that's the thing. When you have Damian Priest, you don't need to rush him into a WWE title picture. Let's go with this slowly and let's enjoy the ride of Damian Priest. Will Walter ever get the throne and come to NXT? No, I don't think Walter is going to get the throne because he's the ring general. Walter's that dude, man. Like, Walter is so good at what he does in the ring as a performer. I'm a big fan of Walter, and he is so good on NXT UK. Like, he's one of the best champions in all professional wrestling, in my opinion. I've mentioned before that if you guys want to know my preferences in wrestling, NXT UK is my favorite wrestling show outside of the t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, actually. So you would think Joshi is the old, everything on Raw and SmackDown is good guy. No, that's not the case. I don't think Raw and SmackDown is great, nor do I think it's horrible as a lot of you guys make it out to be. So for me, I look at Walter and he's just so freaking good, man. I do think he will show up in NXT soon because I keep seeing these little ads that they've been popping up on NXT recently. I love Imperium. I love Walter. They're fucking awesome. Next question. Who would you have face Roman Reigns at Mania if it's not Edge? Well, it's definitely not Daniel Bryan. That's the thing. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this, and maybe I'm not looking at it the right way, but if you're the tribal chief, right, and you've been so dominant to the point that nobody can stop you, where you have Kevin Owens going at you, can't do anything about it. Jey Uso goes at you, can't do anything about it. When you look at Roman Reigns, obviously John Cena's not going to be there this year. He just mentioned that he's not going to be at WrestleMania. You look at Roman Reigns, if you're the tribal chief, wouldn't you want multiple people to go after you? Like, I had this idea about a possible fatal 4-way match for the Universal title. Because I think Edge is going to fight Drew McIntyre. I do think that's going to happen. But I think when you look at Roman Reigns, I don't just see one guy on the SmackDown brand that's be like, okay, this is it from the SmackDown guy, and it's whatever. Like, Roman Reigns and Nakamura is not closing out WrestleMania. It'll be a great match. Don't get me wrong. It'll be an awesome match. But I don't see it happening that way. So, like, Brock Lesnar's not going to pop out last minute, right? Like, who is Roman Reigns going to fight at WrestleMania? That's a very interesting question. If it was up to me, I'd do like some kind of cool like fatal 4-way elimination match, something like that. I have no interest in seeing Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan as a singles match. I don't. That's just me. I don't. Let's take a quick swig of water real quick. What is the most traumatic experience of your life so far, and how has it changed you in any way? I have 3 traumatic experiences that really like affect me the most. First one's my parents' divorce when I was a senior in high school. How it changed me is it's brought me to where I am today, where I needed to not selfishly look out for myself, but I had to start like growing up and become independent like really quick and really fast at a young age. And, that stuff happens in life. I'm not the only person that's dealt with their parents getting divorced. It is what it is. But how does that affect me? I think it's affected me for the better because it opened my eyes that, this happens in life. And, when life throws you obstacles, you have to be ready to be adaptable and keep your head up and push it forward no matter what bad wave of energy that comes your way. That's how I go about my life, and I'm grateful for that experience. You know, it was a sharp pain. It sucked, just like anybody else that deals with divorce. I still think about it to this day. But for me, like it's made me a better person. So it hasn't affected me too bad as it did in the beginning. Um, the second one was the loss of my nanny. Her name was Teresa Catalano. My nanny lived on the top level of my original home, and she was one of my favorite people that I met in my entire life. I love her. I still think about her every day. I have a picture of the article about her after her passing. I have it on my fridge as a daily reminder of her being there with me. She passed away about 16 years ago, and I think about her a lot. My nanny was a very integral person in my life when it comes to how I am as a person. You know, a lot of people tell me that like I'm sweet and genuine and honest and stuff like that. I get a lot of that from her, and what really sucks that for me, not for validation purposes, but I really wish she got to see like my development of being a musician. She ran the church group in my family's church, Holy Rosary here in Chicago, and she was the choir director and she played piano. And you know, I have a lot other family members from her kids. They're musicians. My grandpa obviously is a guitar player. My aunt Berta now runs the choir at Holy Rosary. My uncle Mark plays drums. I have other family members that play music and stuff. I love my nanny very much. I miss her a lot every day. I think about her a lot, and I'm very grateful for her because she taught me a lot of good lessons about being disciplined and being focused and being a good human being and going by your word and trusting yourself. I think that's probably the biggest thing about that. And that's the thing about life. You never know when loss is going to come your way and how you adapt to those situations. Some sting more than others, you know. And for me, I just never dealt with death well. I don't know who does, but for me, it's really bad. Like I get like really numb, even just going to like a wake or something like this. Just something that's just, like sharp. It's something for me that I know it's obviously all of our fates at the end of the day, but I miss her every day. I can't believe it's been 16 years since she's been gone, but losing her is something that I'll never forget. So that was another traumatic experience. And then obviously the last one, shout out to my Willa watching the video. I love you. Thank you so much for checking out the video. The last traumatic experience for me, I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, was the rejection I had in Oviedo last year. I don't need to go further in explanations about that. Maybe I could talk about it on another show or something like that. But it was traumatic because it was probably like the sharpest like pain I felt as like a personal like disvalidation in a way. But also for me, it was like for me that rejection was a blessing because I avoided a trap. I avoided the most biggest personal trap that ever came in my face. I thought I met my future wife. I thought I was going to go through the thing. And, you know, for me, I don't regret anything. In life, you can't regret things. You make decisions, you learn from them, good or bad. And I don't regret that. I took a risk to go meet another girl's family. I met this girl about 4 years ago. We had a 3-year bond. I loved her. I cared for her, helped her out the most part of her life. And even then, it still wasn't enough for her. And that happens, you know. That's something that I'm not going to lose sleep over. That's her loss, and it felt traumatic at that point. But for me, it really opened to my eyes that I was like really making progress, and I was starting to like trust myself and being confident and living my life on my own terms. You know, like that's what I took away from that experience. That rejection confirmed that I was on the right path, that I was focused on my career, I was focused on the right things. And even for the fact that that still wasn't good enough for her, that's her loss. It's not a loss on my end. I didn't lose anything out of it. I took a risk. I would have done it a gazillion times over. And I'm grateful for that life lessons. Some of the times I look at life and, sometimes we deal with a lot of obstacles and some things that we don't want to deal with. But they're there for a reason, and they're there for you to learn from them. And I learned a lot from that rejection. I really did. Did I get into depression? Yeah, but I dealt with it, and I'm in a better place now. I'm happy, and I know what my focuses are. I have my own place. I'm focused on my career. That's my primary focus, and just recording this show for you guys. So I have 3 different types of traumatic experiences, but in a lot of ways, those traumatic experiences really shaped me into the person I am right now, and that I don't give myself enough credit. And that's something that I realized over the years, that I don't give myself enough credit. I don't trust myself enough, and that I don't realize how internally strong I've been in my life, and I don't look for sympathy. I don't look for people to feel sorry for me. I believe in my faith. I believe in myself, and I look at life as an opportunity to grow, because that's all you can do. Tomorrow's not guaranteed, and I want to make a lasting impact on people. So that's how it changed me. Honestly, all those experiences has made me a better person. I mentioned it last week, and I still stand by it. The day I got rejected by Lauren was the best day of my life. Because I found myself that day. I wasn't good enough for her, so that's what it was. It is what it is. Next question, the last question for Nate. These have been some awesome questions, guys. Do you believe in everything happens for a reason? I believe everything happens for a reason to a certain extent. Also, at the same time, when things don't come your way and things don't happen, like we're just talking about, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to take away from that experience? What are you going to take away when things don't go your way, or you do get rejected from a job, or you get rejected from a girl, or you get divorced, or you deal with a death? Like, everything does happen for a reason. I do believe in faith. I do believe in God. I do believe things happen for a reason. I trusted the bond that I had with Lauren, and that's what it was. I do believe people come into your life for a reason, but also I understand things go to a certain extent, because things are not always guaranteed the next day. You're not guaranteed to live the next day. You're not guaranteed to love somebody the next day. It's a constant daily reminder of you have to really think about where you are in your life and how you go about things, how you view yourself, how you react to people, how you talk to people. And for me, I'm at the point of my life right now where I don't care whether people don't like me or if I'm not good enough for somebody, whatever. I really don't care. I don't. What I care about is being the best in my craft. And I care about being me and being myself. Like, I believe things happen for a reason. I think God brought me to this path of being a broadcaster. I think God brought me to loving professional wrestling. I do believe in that. I do believe in things. But I also know in the back of my head that I have to be cautious with people that are going to flake out on you, because it's going to happen one way or another. It's bound to happen. We all deal with flaky people. We deal with flaky people in our families. We deal with flaky people in relationships. We deal with flaky people as friends. Hell, I haven't heard from my brother in about 8 months. How about that? We're all busy, no beef or anything like that, but I haven't heard from him. Life happens in weird ways sometimes. But for me, I think things happen for a reason, but also you have to really take a step back sometimes and think about why you're doing things. Why are you letting somebody bring you down or something you have no control over? Why would you want control over something outside of your career? That should be the only thing that you should control. The only thing you control is yourself. You can't control other people. You can't control the way life comes to you. You can't control that type of stuff. Don't put energy in it. Don't put energy on stuff you have no control over. Don't lose sleep over stuff you don't have control over. Well, I get it. We're all human. We have good days and bad days. We want days we want to lash out at people. We have days we want to blame people for our problems and stuff like that. But what are you getting out of that at the end of the day? What are you getting out of the day when you come home from work and you take your boo-boo energy towards your kids or your wife? What do you get out of that? You get some validation because you let some steam off your shoulders? Do you feel more validated by that, by letting your anger out by other people and lashing out to people that you care about? What are you getting out of that? So I think for me, do I believe everything happens for a reason? Yes, I do. Even to the point that I knew Lord was the one for me, even though I got rejected. That's the thing. It's crazy. It happened for a reason. God brought her to my life for a reason at that certain time. And I'm grateful for that experience. I took a risk. I took the biggest risk of my life going down there. And it didn't end up the way I thought it was going to be. It happened for a reason. I need to learn from that reason. That's the difference. That's the exception to the rule. These happen to you. These come your way. What are you going to do to adapt? What are you going to do to address that issue head on? So these are great questions. You guys really killed it today. I really do appreciate it. We've been going almost an hour with this already. This is crazy. So thank you guys so much for checking out the Good Brothers Q&A session. All you have to do is send me a question at the Hoots Podcast or the Hoots Podcast at gmail.com. And I appreciate the support, everybody. And when we come back, folks, right here on the Hoots Podcast, I'll get to this week in WWE.